Why do so many players struggle with the volleys, and specifically with the backhand volley? In this video, we're going to identify the reasons why the backhand volley is so tough to execute, and of course, we're going to talk about how to fix it. Reason number one is we're not teaching it very well. We're not teaching volleys very well. Think about how lessons work. Have you ever seen a lesson where the first thing a player, a new player, learns is a volley? I don't think so. So in adult lessons, of course, we're starting with the ground strokes. And a lot of times the coaches are kind of measured by how much we're letting the players move, how much exercise they get. So a lot of times, when it's time for the volley, we have our two lines. Everybody gets two volleys, and that's it. And I do have to admit, I've been guilty of that too, because I want to keep people moving. And the volleys, to explain them properly, that takes some time, and that's difficult in a group session. Now, that's bad enough. But even worse is when you see kids' lessons, and I see them everywhere all the time. The kid comes up to net, the coach says, give me a high five, and then they bunt the volley over like this. And guess what a little child does? They're gonna reach over like this. And at some point, they have developed the wrong grip, and they, of course, strengthen the wrong movement. And they have not understood, because we failed to teach them, that they actually have to change the grip and hit the backhand volley with the other side of the racket. So part of the backhand volley crisis is on us coaches. And a whole lot of times then when you've gotten a little older and you're still in the wrong grip, we're letting you get away with that. Because again, in a group setting, to change somebody's grip is gonna slow everything down, and we usually shy away from that a lot of times with the permission of the players, because it is work to change to the proper grip. And it can be super frustrating, I know that, but I urge you to get the correct grip. And in this video, we're going through the progressions that will help you master the continental grip. How do we find it, by the way? Left hand, your non-dominant hand, and your right hand here, if you're a right-hander, form a V, and slide it all the way down from the top, down to the shaft of the racket. If you're now looking at my grip like this, it looks like I'm coming in for a handshake, and I also got the underside of my index finger knuckle and the meaty part of the palm on the number 2 bevel. And that is right here for a right-hander, number 1, and then number 2 this way. The second reason why players struggle more with the backhand volley, even if they have the right grip, is anatomy. If I'm not moving at all with my legs and I'm completely open to the court on my forehand volley, I can still very freely manipulate the racket face. And you see wherever my racket face is pointing is where the ball's going to go. So I get away with just kind of punching, sticking, doing whatever. I don't have to use my entire body. On the backhand side, I can't do that. If I'm just reaching forward here, most likely I'm going to play it to your left, to my right, cross court. If I now want to go down the line, this is really awkward. I can't really do that. Because you have that limited range of motion by just using your arm, this is why a lot of players end up just sticking the racket out like this. My racket face points cross court, and that's where a lot of balls go on the backhand. If you were to then add a wrong grip in, the forehand grip, basically, do you see how my wrist here sticks out? That makes it even more uncomfortable. So the grip, limited mobility. Now to fix that limited mobility that I just have by manipulating my arm, my shoulder here, we're going to add a slight upper body turn, because that is really what sets the racket face before I'm anywhere close to hitting the ball, to determine where I'm going to hit the ball. And basically we're ending up executing the same motion over and over, only that we're turning a little bit more depending on where we go, which gives us then less variables and makes the shot more repeatable, which is what we want. Let's simplify it. The third reason is a lot of players use their entire arm to chop down on the ball. There's still this kind of high to low miss, I'm hearing that, or chop, like a karate chop. we'll get into that in a second, where that down movement of the racket that we perceive is coming from. But the other reason why a lot of players do that and overuse their dominant arm is that they're not using their off arm at all. And we're going to add that in to, again, help yourself make that motion so simple that you can't miss. So let's put all three things together. Correct grip, slight upper body turn, and a more active use of your non-dominant hand. So find your continental grip, get your V, slide down, and you're only going to the throat of the racket here, because the closer the racket face is to your hand, the easier it is to control first. Of course, you're not going to volley like that in point play or just hitting. Next step is set your left arm out like this, as if you were leaning on a buddy. When you now put the racket throat into your left hand here, you automatically have very little take back, and you have your racket in the appropriate height. And you'll also notice that I have a bend here in my elbow. And that is basically all I want to do. So I'm leaning on my buddy. I open my left hand here, of course. I got my racket choked up, set it in the throat here, and now we're working on that ever so slightly upper body turn. And think about more of your shoulder here being fixed. You don't want to get the racket back, setting the racket back by moving your shoulder, your arm. You do that with your entire body. So setting the racket here, grabbing the racket. If I now want to go to our left, to the deuce court here, this is how much I have to turn. Now my racket is already set before I'm even moving up to the ball here with my hand. So now I'm grabbing here, and now I'm stepping forward. I'm punching forward into the direction of where I want to place the ball. If I want to go cross court, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm setting my upper body here. Let's see where my racket is looking. Oh, cool. It's already looking cross court. Now I'm just having to extend my elbow forward to contact point. And that is my racket movement. And we're not stopping there with the work of the offhand. To stabilize my volley, to not have the racket wobble or anything, I'm not doing anything crazy with my wrist. I'm not grabbing it like crazy, but what I do is I'm supporting that elbow extension here by stepping at the same time. As I'm hitting the ball, I'm stepping, and you see that very actively my left arm goes back, because that enables me to stay balanced. Just shadow this a couple of times. Leaning on the buddy, putting the throat of the racket, with the correct grip, of course, into my left hand. I'm boxed out. Step. Step. And yes, I'm exaggerating that dreadfully in the beginning. And you can just mimic as you are shadowing this. Am I going down the line? Am I going cross court? So right now, where do you think am I going? I'm going to your right. I'm going down the line into the deuce court. And you'll notice that when you have the correct grip and you're not manipulating the wrist, you will actually make contact with the ball with the racket face fairly closed. That way, you're not popping the ball up. And yes, start super slow. And I'm absolutely okay with you already setting the racket here. And then you're just working on coordinating that step, that punch forward. Still choked up, makes it a lot easier. Boom. Give yourself a target from the beginning. I'm going down the line. So let's say 10 backhand volleys down the line. How far do I have to turn to present my racket so that it's already facing toward my target? Am I keeping my right grip? Or am I sliding back to this grip? Now, if I'm changing direction and I'm going cross court, how much less do I have to turn? And where do I need to step to support that punch forward? How active can I be, should I be, with that left hand. Leaning out on my body, putting the racket in my left hand, and I'm extending my elbow forward to my contact point. Now I'm going down the line, so you see that I'm turning a little bit more. And I'm stepping more towards my target. Down the line, cross court. Next step is, you're still in a choked grip, but you're in a proper ready position. So now you have to start putting everything together. Lifting the racket, setting the racket, turning. Split. That's it. All right, and lastly, we put it all together. All the way down on the grip, which of course changes a little bit the distances of how you want to hit it, makes the racket a little heavier. But you're working on exactly the same things. You're boxing out, using your left arm here as a counterbalance tool. Turn, I'm going down the line, stepping towards my target. And here, going cross court. Quick word about what we perceive as the racket going down. As I'm making contact, the energy of the ball momentarily pushes the ball down. I'm not doing this here deliberately. The energy of the incoming ball has to go somewhere. And of course, the harder somebody hits the ball, the more you will see this absorbing of the energy. But again, I'm not trying to control the ball with my wrist wide open and chopping down on the ball. And if you're now ready to tackle the next step in volleys, the low volleys, check out this video.